If my memory serves me right, I think I was 10 when I did my first blood brother thing. So we had seen it, I'm sure, on some movie, how you became blood brothers. And so we took our pocket knives and we made a cut in our thumbs, and then we put our thumbs together. And so the blood would intermingle, and that forever we would be blood brothers. I think I had like 2 or 3 other blood brothers in the years that followed, and I don't even remember who they are at this point. But it was quite a ritual at the time, intermingling blood. This was, of course, before HIV and everybody. Intermingled blood. Blood is a precious thing in the Jewish community. It was the essence of life. It's what gave a body life. Blood was of God, not human. It didn't belong to us as humans, even in animals. And so there was a clear prohibition in the Jewish community of ever drinking blood. It was not permitted. Often. Because that was not ours. That's what gave life. That's what was of God. So when an animal was slaughtered, it was very clear in the Jewish law that the blood had to be poured out into the ground. That it was a sacred thing. And for the Jewish community, as animals were slaughtered, they would have this sense of awe as they saw that life pouring out into the ground. And then the ground itself where the blood went was sacred. Their own history had a lot of moments when blood was used to seal a covenant. The most famous one being on Mount Sinai with Moses, where blood was poured into a cup and then sprinkled on the people as a sign of that covenant. Something precious, sacred. So that was what the community knew. And when Jesus gathers with his disciples at that Last Supper, and he says to them, "Take this and drink it. This is the chalice of my blood." The disciples must have swallowed hard and thought, "Blood? We're going to drink your blood?" So much more than just putting thumbs together. This was something much more dramatic than being blood brothers. We were going to drink his blood. I think the only ones who still understand that as shocking to this day are children, as they're getting ready for First Communion and say, "Well, you're going to have a chalice of blood." I'm not going to drink somebody's blood. Oh, yes, you are. Our parish mission statement is real brief. And Deacon Krieger, whenever we're giving our class to the newcomers to the parish, we tell them they can't leave until they memorize it. It's go and make disciples. So it's very short. It's easy. It's one of those pieces from Scripture that is easy to pick out and to say, okay, this is the mission statement from Jesus. It sums it all up in just 4 words. But if I was going to pick another phrase from Scripture that summed up all of what Jesus came to do, I would take his words over the chalice at that Last Supper. Because that too says so much about who we are as followers of his. Take this. All drink. This is the chalice of my blood, which will be poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this. Do this in remembrance of me. Because he says very clearly in that what has happened. That it is his blood that will be shed. And his blood that forgives sins. And that it is his blood that creates a new covenant between this people and God. The old covenant has been replaced, and this new one is everlasting. And that you and I are partakers in that new covenant. We have been forgiven by his shedding of blood. And then we are invited then to live differently in this new covenant with him. And that forever we are to do this in his manner. He commands only a handful of things to us as followers in the Gospels. But that is one of the commands. Do this in remembrance of it. It is his gift to us. This new covenant in his blood. That which belongs only to God and that which normally would never ever be tasted. For you and I are to be made one with him in that sharing of his blood and his body. We are to be transformed in this new covenant, to live our lives free, to live fully as followers of his. On this Holy Thursday, the church always gives us the reading from John, which assumes you know the story when he's talking, because John doesn't include it in his gospel. He rather tells you the story you just heard, the story of feet being washed. And once again, a command. As I have done, you must. You and I are to wash feet. You and I are to truly become Jesus, to be servants to our world, so that the world can understand who our God is. Because it doesn't understand. It has a strange view of God. It doesn't see God as gift giver. It doesn't see God as creator. It doesn't see God as the blessing that God is. So Jesus invites you and me to do as he did. Having eaten his body and drank his blood, having been transformed into being Jesus, then we too must be servants to our Lord. To invite others into knowing that incredible gift of our God. A God who wants intimacy with you that is beyond any other. A oneness that unites you